AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded me from the bridal party, and now my whole family is against me. I've 28F, always been close with my sister, 30F, or at least I thought we were. Growing up, we were inseparable, shared a room, and were each other's best friend. I was her maid of honor in her first wedding, and we were involved in every major life event for each other. But recently, things have taken a turn that's left me questioning everything about our relationship and my place in my family. My sister got engaged about a year ago, and when she told me, I was genuinely thrilled. I immediately asked her if I would be a part of the bridal party, as I assumed I would be. It felt natural. She hesitated and said she hadn't finalized anything, but mentioned she was thinking about including some of her closest friends and her fiancé's sister. I pressed a bit, and she said she was trying to keep the bridal party small and intimate, and wasn't sure if she wanted siblings involved this time around. I was taken aback, but didn't say much because I didn't want to come across as pushy or upset. I figured I'd be involved in other ways. Over the next few months, I tried to stay supportive, helped with small tasks she asked for, and generally kept my distance regarding the bridal party. The wedding invitations came about 2 months ago, and I was shocked to see that I was not listed as a bridesmaid. Even more hurtful, I wasn't even asked to be a junior bridesmaid or have any formal role. The bridal party consisted entirely of her fiancé's sister and his closest friends. I know her fiancé's sister is important to her, but I never imagined that I would be completely excluded. I reached out to her privately, asking if we could talk. I told her how hurt I was and that it felt like she was shutting me out of something that should have been shared between sisters. She said she didn't mean to hurt me and that she just wanted to keep things small. She also mentioned that she thought I was too busy with my own life and that she thought I might not want to be involved deeply. I was floored because I had never given her any indication of that. Then came the day of the bachelorette party. I wasn't invited, and when I asked her why, she said it was just for her fiancé's friends and close friend from college. It felt like a slap in the face. I wasn't even given a chance to explain myself or be part of the planning process. At this point, I told my parents about everything, expecting them to support me or at least encourage some kind of family mediation. Instead, they told me I was overreacting and that the bride gets to decide who's in the bridal party. My dad said that maybe my sister just wanted a fresh start with her new family, and I should respect that. The day of the wedding arrived, and I decided I wasn't going. I couldn't bring myself to celebrate a day where I was deliberately left out and made to feel invisible. I told my sister this, and she called me selfish and immature. She said I was making the day about me instead of her and her fiancé. My parents are furious with me. They say I've caused a huge family rift and that I should have swallowed my pride for the sake of peace. They even suggested I apologize to my sister, but I don't think I did anything wrong by feeling hurt and choosing not to attend. My extended family is split. Some say I was right to stand up for myself, but many believe I'm blowing this out of proportion. I'm feeling isolated and unsure if I was really the asshole here. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded me from the bridal party. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding after she disrespected me and my family repeatedly. This has been a tough situation for me, and I'm hoping to get some perspective on whether I'm actually the asshole here. I, 32F, own a house that I've lived in for about 5 years now. It's a modest but cozy place in a nice neighborhood. I worked really hard to buy it, and I'm proud of it. My younger sister, Emily, 28F, got engaged a few months ago, and she immediately started talking about how she wanted to have her wedding at my house. The problem is, this came out of nowhere, and I didn't know how to respond at first. To give some context, Emily and I have had a complicated relationship. Growing up, we were close, but as we got older, there were a lot of conflict between us. Emily has a habit of being very demanding and sometimes manipulative, especially when things don't go her way. She has also been pretty dismissive of my feelings and boundaries on multiple occasions, which has caused me a lot of frustration. After she got engaged, Emily called me and told me that she and her fiancé wanted to have a small, intimate wedding at my house because it's so beautiful and perfect. I told her I needed some time to think about it. The reason is my house isn't very big, and I'm worried about the logistics of hosting an event with many people, even if it's supposed to be small. Also, I was surprised she hadn't talked to me about this before, just assuming it would be okay. Over the next few weeks, Emily kept pushing the idea, and it became clear she expected me to just say yes. When I finally sat her down and explained that I was uncomfortable with hosting the wedding because of space, potential damage to my property, and the stress it would cause me, she got upset. She said I was being selfish and that family should support each other, especially for something as important as a wedding. Then, things got worse. Emily started telling our mutual friends and family that I was being difficult and rude for not letting her use my house. This led to some tension in our family gatherings. I tried to explain my side, but Emily dismissed it and continued to paint me as the villain. Here's the kicker. A few days ago, Emily invited me to a family dinner to discuss the wedding plans, and during the dinner, she made several passive-aggressive comments about how I was too uptight and never doing anything for her. She also brought up past incidents where I had set boundaries, like when I didn't lend her money or let her borrow my car. It felt like she was trying to guilt-trip me into agreeing to the wedding. I finally stood my ground and told her that while I want to support her, I have the right to decide what happens in my own home. I also said that respect and understanding need to go both ways. The conversation ended with her storming out and saying she was done with this family drama and that she would just find another venue. Now, I'm hearing from other family members that Emily is planning to have a big wedding elsewhere and is spreading the story that I'm a terrible sister who refused to help her. Some are even accusing me of not caring about family or about her special day. I'm feeling pretty hurt and confused because I never wanted to cause problems. I just wanted to protect my home and set reasonable boundaries. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding after she disrespected me and my family repeatedly? Should I have just said yes to avoid family conflict? Or is it reasonable to set limits, even if it means disappointing her? AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's kid after she made some shocking demands? So, this is a long story, but I'm hoping to get some perspective here. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emma, 27F, who has always been a bit dramatic and demanding. We were pretty close growing up, but drifted apart as adults because our lives took very different paths. I'm married, no kids, and have a pretty quiet, routine life. Emma, on the other hand, has always been a bit of a wild card. She's had a series of unstable relationships and jobs, and now she's a single mom to a 3-year-old boy named Lucas. About 6 months ago, Emma's boyfriend of a year abruptly left her. She was devastated and, understandably, overwhelmed with the responsibilities of parenting solo. She started messaging me almost daily, asking for help. Anything from watching Lucas for a few hours to asking if I could just take him for a week or two while she figured stuff out. I told her I was willing to help with occasional babysitting, but I was clear that I wasn't prepared for long-term or full-time childcare because I have my own life and commitments. She seemed okay with that at first, but then things escalated. 2 months ago, Emma called me in tears, saying she lost her job and was about to be evicted. She begged me to let Lucas stay with me for a while. I hesitated, but told her I could help for a weekend, no more. She got angry and said, "If you can't do this for your nephew, who will? Your family." I tried to explain that I love Lucas, but I'm not a parent and can't take on full responsibility. She accused me of being selfish and abandoning her. Fast forward to last week. Emma messaged me again, saying she had secured a new job, but needed me to watch Lucas full-time while she worked overnight shifts for the next month. She said she'd pay me, but I should understand it was temporary and the only way. I told her I appreciated the offer, but again I couldn't do full-time care because of my job and health issues I've been managing for years. I suggested maybe a daycare or a nanny might be a better solution. She went ballistic. She told me I was heartless and that I was making her situation worse. She said if I didn't help, she'd have no choice but to ask Child Protective Services to step in, implying I was the only family who could help. That really stressed me out, and I tried to explain I'm not refusing to help completely. I just can't be Lucas's full-time caregiver. Then, the final straw happened a few days ago. Emma showed up unannounced at my house at 10 p.m. with Lucas. She said she was going to work and needed a place for Lucas. She expected me to keep him overnight. I told her no and asked her to leave, but she refused. Eventually, I called her and begged her to take Lucas home, saying I would arrange a babysitter for the weekend to help her out, but I could not keep Lucas overnight. She got so angry she slammed the door and left, and I haven't heard from her since. My husband is furious at her behavior, but he also thinks I should have handled it more gently. My parents think I'm being too harsh, and that family is supposed to help each other, no matter what. I'm feeling really torn. I love my nephew and want to support my sister, but I'm not cut out for parenting, and this kind of pressure is making me anxious and resentful. I don't want to lose my sister or make her situation worse, but I can't be her only option for childcare, especially when she refuses to take responsibility herself. So, AITA for refusing to take care of my nephew full-time and for kicking my sister out when she showed up unannounced? Or is Emma being unreasonable expecting me to be her emergency childcare for months on end? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the way she treated my daughter? This is a long one, so bear with me. I, 36F, have a daughter, Emily, who just turned 7. My sister, Lisa, 34F, has always been a bit difficult, but I've tried to keep things civil for the sake of family. However, recently, something happened that pushed me over the edge, and now my whole family is mad at me. Lisa got engaged about 6 months ago, and the wedding is planned for next spring. From the start, I wanted to be involved and supportive, but things started getting weird when she made comments about Emily. It's important to know that Emily has some sensory issues, particularly with loud noises and big crowds. It's nothing debilitating, but she does better in quieter, more controlled environments. A few months ago, Lisa started dropping hints that she didn't want kids at the wedding, which I understood and was okay with. Except that she kept making disparaging remarks about Emily, calling her high maintenance and too much trouble. I brushed it off at first, but then it escalated. Lisa insisted that Emily could not come to the wedding or any related events. She said it would be too stressful and that it would ruin the vibe. I told her Emily wouldn't be a problem if everyone was mindful, but she said it wasn't about the other guests. It was about her wedding being perfect and Instagram-worthy. This was hurtful, but not the worst part. The worst part was during a family gathering about 2 months ago. Emily was playing quietly in the corner with her toys. Lisa came over, loudly complained about the noise Emily was making, she wasn't, and then told Emily directly, in front of everyone, that she didn't want her around because she was too difficult and embarrassing. Emily was crushed and ran to me crying. I confronted Lisa immediately, telling her it was cruel and unnecessary. Lisa laughed it off and said I was overreacting and that she was just being honest. My parents and other family members told me I was being dramatic and that Lisa was allowed to have boundaries. Since then, Lisa has been cold to both me and Emily, and she's spread rumors that I'm an overprotective helicopter mom who's making a big deal out of nothing. When I asked her if Emily could attend the wedding, she flat out refused, saying she wouldn't allow a child with problems to ruin her special day. I was furious, but tried to find a compromise. I suggested Emily could come for just the ceremony and sit with me quietly, or we could leave early if she got overwhelmed. Lisa refused. She also said she didn't want Emily to be in any family photos or involved in any way. I told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding if Emily couldn't come, and that I found her treatment of my daughter cruel and unacceptable. That's when things blew up. Lisa and most of our family turned on me. They say I'm being selfish and that I'm ruining Lisa's wedding and family harmony over a minor issue. My parents said I should suck it up and attend without Emily because it's Lisa's big day and that Emily needs to learn to handle situations like this. Some cousins have messaged me saying I'm making a mountain out of a molehill and that I'm punishing Lisa. I've held my ground, but I'm now being accused of breaking the family apart. I don't want to go to the wedding without my daughter because I don't want to teach her that it's okay to be treated badly or excluded because of who she is. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she won't let my daughter come and has treated her horribly. Thanks for reading. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior toward my family. This is a long one, so bear with me. My 29F sister, 32F, has been engaged for about a year now, and the wedding is set for next month. I've never been close with her fiancé, 34M, let's call him Tom, but I always try to be polite and civil for the sake of family peace. Over the past year, though, things have gotten worse, and I've finally reached a breaking point. A bit of background. My sister and I have had a somewhat complicated relationship since we were kids. We're close in age, but our personalities are quite different. She's always been more outgoing and self-centered, while I'm more introverted and sensitive. Our parents have always tried to keep us united, and for the most part, we managed to get along okay. Tom entered the picture about 2 years ago. When my sister introduced him, I was neutral. He seemed fine at first, but then I noticed subtle things that didn't sit well with me. He was dismissive towards me and my family on multiple occasions, often making snide remarks or disregarding our feelings. For example, during holiday dinners, he would mock the way my mom cooks or make condescending comments about my dad's job. I brushed it off as him trying to be funny, but it felt more like disrespect. The real problems began when my sister and Tom started planning their wedding. Tom insisted on controlling nearly every detail, often ignoring or belittling input from my sister's family, including my parents and me. When my sister tried to speak up, Tom would shut her down or accuse her of being difficult. It became clear he wanted the wedding on his terms, not anyone else's. I tried to stay neutral, but things escalated when Tom made a direct insult towards my mother during a family gathering. My mom had prepared a special dish for the event, and Tom openly criticized it, saying it was disgusting and not fit for real guests. My mom was crushed, and I was furious. When I confronted Tom privately about his behavior, he brushed it off and said my family was too sensitive and that we needed to lighten up. Since then, Tom's behavior has only worsened. He's rude to my parents, dismissive of me, and acts as though he's superior to the whole family. My sister seems oblivious or unwilling to address it because she's deeply in love with him. But my parents and I feel disrespected and hurt. Last week, I was informed that the wedding invitations were sent out, and I realized I hadn't RSVP'd yet because I wasn't sure if I even wanted to go. After talking it over with my parents, I decided to decline the invitation. I explained to my sister that I couldn't attend a celebration where her fiancé treats my family so poorly, and that it hurt me deeply that she wouldn't stand up for us. I told her that if Tom truly cared about her and her family, he would behave better. My sister was furious. She said I was being selfish and making her choose between me and Tom. She accused me of ruining what should be a happy time for her and told me that by not coming, I was causing a family divide. She also said Tom apologized in his own way and that I was holding on to grudges unnecessarily. I stood my ground and told her that I needed to prioritize my mental health and that attending would only cause me more pain. She blocked me on social media and hasn't spoken to me since. My parents are upset but support my decision. My friends are divided. Some say I should just go for the sake of family. Others say I'm right to protect myself from toxicity. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior towards my family. AITA for refusing to forgive my sister after she revealed a life-changing secret that shattered my trust. I, 32F, have always been close with my younger sister, Emily, 28F. We grew up in a loving household, and despite the usual sibling arguments, we were best friends throughout our childhood and teenage years. We confided in each other about everything, and I always thought we had an unbreakable bond. But everything changed about a year ago when Emily dropped a bombshell that has left me questioning everything about our relationship and whether I should ever forgive her. Some background. Emily has always been a bit of a wild card. She's outgoing, impulsive, and has made some questionable decisions in the past, but I've always supported her because family comes first. She's currently married to a guy named Jake, and they've been together for around 5 years. From what I knew, their relationship was healthy, and they seemed happy. A year ago, Emily came to me crying and confessed something that completely blindsided me. She revealed that before she met Jake, she had a serious relationship with a man named Mark, who was married at the time. She said they had been involved for over 2 years while he was cheating on his wife. She admitted she didn't know about his marriage at the start, but eventually found out and continued the affair anyway. This was a shock because Emily has always been vocal about how much she despises cheating and considers it one of the worst betrayals. She's the type to preach about loyalty and integrity, so her story didn't add up to me at first. I asked her why she never told me this before, and she said she was ashamed and scared of being judged. She asked me to keep it a secret, promising it was a long time ago and that she's a completely different person now. I agreed to keep it between us, but was deeply conflicted. A few months later, Emily and Jake invited me over for dinner. Jake and I got to talking, and I mentioned Mark's name casually, only to realize Jake had no idea who he was. That's when I got curious and did some digging. I found out that Mark is actually Jake's older brother. It turns out Emily had an affair with her now brother-in-law before she started dating Jake. I confronted Emily about this, and she admitted it was true. She said she never planned to tell Jake because it was in the past, and she didn't want to hurt him or ruin their relationship. I told her I thought that was incredibly dishonest, and that Jake deserved to know the truth, especially since he had no idea his brother's affair involved his own wife. Emily begged me not to tell Jake and said it was her burden to bear. She promised it had no bearing on their current marriage, and that Jake is the only man she loves now. But I couldn't just sit on this secret, especially knowing how devastating it could be for Jake to find out from anyone else. I ended up telling Jake the truth in a private conversation. He was crushed and felt betrayed by both Emily and his brother. After Jake confronted Emily, their marriage went through a rough patch, but they've been trying to work through it. Emily is furious with me for betraying her trust and says I broke our sisterly bond by going behind her back. She's cut off contact with me and told our family that I am the one who caused the problems. On the other hand, our family and some close friends think I did the right thing by telling Jake, as he had the right to know. Some even say that Emily's secrecy was selfish and manipulative. I've been struggling with guilt over losing my sister, but also feel conflicted because I stand by my decision to tell Jake. So, AITA for breaking Emily's trust and telling Jake about the affair? Or was it the right thing to do given the circumstances? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé be involved in my wedding planning because of his controlling behavior? I, 29F, am getting married next year to my fiancé, Jake, 31M. We've been together for about 5 years, engaged for 1. Wedding planning started about 6 months ago, and so far it's been going fairly well. I want a wedding that feels personal, fun, and relaxed. Something that reflects both Jake and me, but also keeps our families happy. The problem started when my sister, Emily, 26F, got engaged to her fiancé, Dan, 28M. Emily and I are close, but Emily has always been a bit intense. Dan is nice enough, or so I thought, but over the past few months, his behavior around wedding planning has become a major issue. Emily and Dan are not involved in the wedding beyond being guests, and Emily being my maid of honor. I wanted to keep planning separate from them because Emily tends to be opinionated, and I didn't want our day to be overrun with opinions that clash with Jake's and mine vision. I let Emily know from the start that she'd be involved in the usual ways, helping with bridesmaid dresses, a bachelorette party, that kind of stuff, but not the bigger decisions like venue, catering, or the playlist. At first, Emily respected that boundary, but Dan did not. It started small. Dan kept asking for updates on the venue and the guest list, and when I tried to politely say that we were still finalizing things, he insisted that as my sister's fiancé, he should be more involved. I told him that wasn't how we were planning it, and that it was mostly Jake and me making those decisions. Then, Dan started sending me long texts about how he thought certain caterers were a bad idea, or how the venue I liked was too small, and suggested other locations without being asked. He even went so far as to call the venue and try to negotiate prices behind my back, which annoyed the venue coordinator and me. Emily apologized for Dan's behavior a couple of times, but didn't really put a stop to it. She said she didn't want to upset Dan because they had a complicated relationship, but that she agreed Dan was overstepping. Things came to a head when I invited Emily over for a planning session to finalize the guest list. Dan showed up uninvited and demanded to see the list. When I refused, saying it was private information until we were ready to send invites, he became passive-aggressive and said, "Well, if you're excluding people just because I don't like them, that's not fair." At this point, I'd had enough. I told Dan firmly that he was not involved in the wedding planning, and if he wanted to maintain a relationship with me and Jake, he needed to respect our boundaries. Emily was upset that I said this to Dan and told me I was being unfair to him and that I should try to include him more since he's part of the family now. I told Emily that Dan's behavior was controlling and intrusive, and I wasn't comfortable letting him anywhere near the planning. Emily said she understood, but that I should try harder because Dan felt left out and it was causing tension. I stood my ground, and Emily ended up calling me cold and unreasonable for refusing to include her fiancé in the planning. She said I was making her choose between her fiancé and her sister. Since then, Emily and Dan have been distant. Dan posts passive-aggressive comments on social media about how some people can't handle family. Emily told me she's disappointed and feels I'm being selfish. Meanwhile, Jake supports me completely and says this is my day to plan, and I have every right to set boundaries. My friends and other family members also say Dan's behavior was over the top. I don't want to cause a family rift, but I also don't want a wedding where I feel like I'm constantly dealing with Dan's interference. So, AITA for refusing to include my sister's fiancé in the wedding planning because of his controlling behavior. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior towards my family. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F. We were really close growing up, but things started getting rocky after she met her fiancé, Mark, 30M, about 2 years ago. This is going to be a long one, so bear with me. Emily and Mark met through mutual friends, and from the start, I was a little wary. Mark seemed charming on the surface, but I noticed that he had a tendency to be dismissive and even rude towards my family. I chalked it up to first impressions and hoped he'd grow on me. But as time went on, it became clear that this wasn't a one-off thing. For example, last Thanksgiving, Mark showed up late with no warning and acted annoyed that the family dinner wasn't already started. When my parents asked him about his job, he snapped that they were too nosy and refused to answer. Later, when my younger brother accidentally spilled a drink, Mark loudly told him to be more careful in front of everyone, making the kid cry. I was embarrassed and upset, but tried to let it slide for Emily's sake. There were other moments, too. At family gatherings, Mark would often interrupt conversations to talk about himself or make sarcastic remarks aimed at my family members. One time, he made a joke about my dad's health issues that went way too far, and my mom almost cried. Emily always defended him, saying he's just joking and doesn't mean anything by it. But I felt like he was showing a deep lack of respect. The final straw for me happened about a month ago at my birthday party. Emily and Mark had been invited along with the rest of the family. During dinner, Mark got into an argument with my brother over something trivial and raised his voice, calling him lazy and irresponsible. My brother, who has struggled with anxiety, was visibly shaken and left the room. I confronted Mark privately afterward and told him his behavior was unacceptable. He brushed it off and said I was being too sensitive and overreacting. Emily overheard our conversation and got defensive. She told me that I was trying to start a fight and that I should just accept Mark as part of the family. I told her that I couldn't stand by and watch him treat my family like that, especially when he refuses to take responsibility or even apologize. She said that if I didn't support their relationship, maybe I didn't love her as a sister anymore. Fast forward to now. Emily and Mark are engaged and planning a wedding in 6 months. I was initially happy for her, but after everything, I'm hesitant to be part of it. The problem is, Emily has made it clear that if I don't attend, she will consider it a huge betrayal and it will damage our relationship permanently. She says the wedding is one of the most important days of her life, and she wants her entire family there, including Mark's family, who has been nothing but kind to us. I don't want to cause a rift in my family, but I honestly cannot stand the idea of sitting through a day celebrating someone who has been so disrespectful and toxic toward my loved ones. I've tried talking to Emily about it calmly, explaining my feelings, but she either gets upset or ignores my concerns. My parents and brother are divided. My mom says I should at least try to make peace for Emily's sake, while my dad understands where I'm coming from but worries about the family fallout. My brother is thankful I'm on his side, but says he's scared of what will happen if Emily finds out he's told me about some of Mark's behavior. I am stuck. I don't want to be the villain, but I also can't pretend that everything is okay. I feel like Emily is putting me in an impossible position. Either support her and her fiancé blindly or lose her completely. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior towards my family. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my late mother's heirlooms for her wedding after she insulted me for not contributing financially. This is a long story, but I'll try to make it as clear as possible. My sister, 30F, and I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship, and things have gotten worse since our mother passed away 2 years ago. Our mother was a strong woman who loved us deeply and left us a number of family heirlooms, mostly jewelry and some antique furniture, that she wanted us to share equally. We agreed to divide them fairly and keep things civil, even though we have very different tastes. The problem started when my sister got engaged 6 months ago. She immediately started talking about how she wanted to use some of the heirloom pieces for her wedding, specifically our mother's diamond necklace and some pearl earrings. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that. I explained that these pieces were very sentimental to me, and I wanted to keep them intact, not risk them getting lost or damaged during a one-day event. I also have plans to eventually pass them on to my own children. My sister got upset and said I was being selfish and that weddings are special events where family heirlooms should be showcased and celebrated. She said our mother would have wanted her to wear the jewelry on her wedding day, not me hoarding it away. I offered to lend her something else, not heirloom pieces, but jewelry that could still be beautiful for the occasion. She refused, insisting she wanted the real thing. Then she asked me if I could contribute money to help cover some of the wedding costs instead. She claimed that since I wouldn't give her the jewelry, I should support her financially. I told her I couldn't afford to chip in thousands of dollars for her wedding, especially given my student loans and rent. I also reminded her that when I got married 2 years ago, she didn't contribute anything either, nor did she ask for help from me. She got angry and called me cheap and ungrateful. Things escalated from there. She started posting on social media about how I was not supportive and selfish, and even talked to other family members, painting me as the villain. My parents are no longer here to mediate, and my father's side of the family is mostly neutral, but my sister's friends have been siding with her. A few weeks ago, she called me and said that since I was being so difficult, she had decided to go to an appraiser and have the heirlooms professionally evaluated and possibly sell the necklace and earrings to cover wedding expenses. I was horrified. I told her she had no right to do that, as the pieces are legally mine as much as they are hers. We had agreed to share, but that does not mean one person can sell or permanently give away pieces without the other's consent. She said she didn't care, and that if I wouldn't support her wedding, she would find other ways to get what she needs. I told her this was crossing a line and that I might have to take legal action if she tried to sell them. We haven't spoken since then. I feel terrible because I know weddings are important to her, and I want her to have a beautiful day. But I also feel like she's trying to bully me into giving up things that mean the world to me, and I can't just hand over family treasures because she demands it. I'm also upset she expects me to bankroll her wedding when I have my own financial struggles. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister use or sell our mother's heirlooms for her wedding and for not giving her money for the wedding. Or is she the one being unreasonable and manipulative here? AITA for refusing to let my husband's daughter move back in after she tried to sabotage my wedding? I, 36F, married my husband Ethan, 39M, last year. We had been together for about 3 years prior, and everything leading up to the wedding was amazing, except for one major issue. His daughter, Maddie, 19F now, 18 at the time. Ethan had Maddie young with his high school girlfriend. They co-parented well for years, and when I came into the picture, things were cordial, though Maddie always kept me at arm's length. I chalked it up to normal teenage discomfort with a parent dating someone new. I never pushed, but I was always kind and respectful toward her. We gave her space. When Ethan proposed to me, Maddie congratulated us, but it felt forced. I tried to include her in wedding planning, not as a bridesmaid, but by offering her little tasks like helping with the playlist or picking flowers. She declined everything. Again, I didn't want to pressure her. The problem started about 6 months before the wedding. Ethan and I were planning a small outdoor ceremony at a vineyard. We sent out invites, secured vendors, and paid deposits. It was all going smoothly. Then weird things started happening. Our DJ emailed us, saying he'd gotten a message from my email address asking to cancel our contract. A similar thing happened with the florist. Luckily, it double-checked with me, and I cleared up the confusion. I thought maybe it was a glitch or a prank. Then, a month before the wedding, our venue called and said someone had emailed them, again, pretending to be me, claiming we'd eloped and no longer needed the space. That's when I got suspicious. I checked my email security, changed all my passwords, and started looking at who could have done this. My gut pointed to Maddie, but I didn't want to accuse her without proof. So I waited. I quietly checked the IP addresses from the fake emails and compared them to our home network. Ethan works in IT, and with his help, without telling him what I suspected, we traced one of the emails back to a device used at our house. Long story short, it was Maddie's laptop. I sat on this information for a week. I didn't want to blow up Ethan's relationship with her, and honestly, I didn't want to believe it. But I finally confronted her. I was calm, just asked her why she was doing it. She flat out denied it and got defensive, said I was paranoid and trying to push her out of her dad's life. I showed her the evidence. She broke down crying, admitted it, and said she felt like I was replacing her mom. She had this whole narrative that I was trying to erase her family and steal her dad. I told her that was never my intention, and I actually wanted to have a decent relationship with her, but she crossed a huge line. She apologized, and I told her I needed space. Ethan was heartbroken. He didn't know what to do. He supported me, but he didn't want to cut Maddie off. I agreed. I told him I didn't want her at the wedding, though. That was non-negotiable. He understood. Maddie didn't come, and things were tense for a while. After we got married, Maddie stayed with her mom full-time. Ethan still saw her, but she avoided me completely. Over time, the tension cooled a little. I wasn't looking to punish her forever, but I also wasn't ready to trust her again. Fast forward to now. Maddie just started college nearby and recently had a falling out with her mom. She reached out to Ethan and asked if she could move in with us for a while, maybe even the whole school year. Ethan asked me if I was okay with it. I didn't even hesitate. I said no. He was shocked. He said she had nowhere else to go, and it would only be temporary. I said I wasn't comfortable with her living in our house after what happened. I told him I'm still not over the fact that she deliberately tried to ruin our wedding. That wasn't a prank or a joke. It was calculated and malicious. She didn't want us to get married, and she tried to make it happen. He argued that she was 18 at the time and emotional, that she's apologized and grown since then. I said maybe so, but actions have consequences. I don't feel safe letting someone who went behind my back and tried to sabotage one of the most important days of my life move into my home. He thinks I'm being too harsh. He said I'm forcing him to choose between his daughter and his wife. I told him that's not what this is. She's welcome to visit. They can see each other all they want. But my home is supposed to be a place of peace, and I'm not comfortable sharing it with someone who once saw me as the enemy. Now Ethan is angry. He's been sleeping in the guest room for the last few nights. He said he's rethinking things and that he never imagined I'd turn Maddie away in her time of need. I told him I never asked him to cut her off, just to respect my boundary about our home. I get that she's young. I get that she was emotional. But I also remember sitting in tears thinking my wedding was going to fall apart because someone wanted to hurt me out of spite. I still have trust issues because of that. Everyone I've talked to is split. My sister says I'm right to protect my peace. A mutual friend of mine and Ethan's says I'm holding a grudge and should let her move in if she's trying to turn her life around. So, AITA for refusing to let my stepdaughter move in after she tried to sabotage my wedding. AITA for telling my husband I won't help raise the baby he had with his friend. I, 34F, have been married to my husband Jason, 36M, for 8 years. We've had a mostly solid relationship, some bumps here and there like any long marriage, but we always prided ourselves on being honest, respectful, and, above all, a team. We made the decision not to have kids 5 years ago. It was mutual, though I'll admit I leaned a bit more strongly against it. I love children, but I never felt the drive to be a mother. Jason initially wanted kids someday, but after some hard talks and a lot of therapy, individual and couples, he told me he was at peace with the choice. We even went as far as him getting a vasectomy 3 years ago. Everything changed earlier this year when his best friend, Lena, 35F, came to him with a request. Some context. Lena and Jason have been friends since college. I've always known her and we got along fine. Never super close, but friendly. She's been through a rough few years, divorce, failed rounds of IVF, and being denied as a single adoptive parent. She told Jason she was considering sperm donation, but was afraid of the anonymity and not having a known co-parent. She asked him to be her donor, not romantically, not as a co-parent in the traditional sense, but as someone who would be in the child's life. Jason came to me with this. I was caught completely off guard. I asked for time to think, and after a lot of back and forth, I told him I wasn't comfortable with it. I didn't want a child, any child being tied to our lives in that way. I said it wasn't fair to introduce that level of complexity into our marriage, especially when we'd already made peace with being child-free. He was disappointed, but said he understood and didn't bring it up again. Or so I thought. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. Jason came home acting weird, like physically nervous. He sat me down and told me that Lena is pregnant with his child. I honestly felt like my ears stopped working. He explained that after our discussion, he and Lena continued talking, and he realized he couldn't live with himself if he didn't help her. He said he didn't tell me because he knew I'd say no again, and that this was his only chance to leave something meaningful behind. He said he didn't want to co-parent in the full sense, but that he would be involved financially, emotionally, and physically when needed, and that he hoped I'd come around to being part of the baby's life too. I felt like the air was sucked out of my lungs. I asked him if he understood what he'd done, not just lying to me, but bringing a child into the world under false pretenses and expecting me to just go along with it. He tried to say he didn't cheat, that it was a medical procedure, which it was, and that he thought this would be different because Lena isn't his partner. But I told him that betrayal doesn't require sex. He made a life-altering decision behind my back that affects both of us. That's betrayal, period. After a few days of me barely speaking to him, I told him I wouldn't help raise this baby. Not now, not ever. I wouldn't play stepmom, aunt, babysitter, or anything else. He made a decision for himself, so he can live with the consequences. I said I don't even want the child in our house. I told him I was considering divorce. He was shocked, genuinely shocked. He said he thought I'd be mad, but that I'd eventually understand, maybe even grow to love the baby once it was here. He said I was being cold, selfish, and rigid, that the child would be innocent and I was punishing it for something it didn't do. He even said I was being anti-woman by not supporting Lena's right to be a mother. Now he's staying with a friend while we cool off. Lena texted me a long message about how sorry she was that I found out this way, but that she hopes I can come to see this baby as a bonus in our lives. She said she wants to raise her child in a community of love and hopes I'll be part of that. I didn't respond. I've told a few close friends what's going on. Most are on my side, saying this was a massive breach of trust and that I shouldn't be expected to raise a child I never agreed to. But a couple have said that while Jason handled it terribly, maybe this child will be a good thing in the long run and that I should try to see the bigger picture. I feel like my entire world has been turned inside out. A part of me feels petty and heartless for rejecting a child that didn't ask for this situation. But another part of me is screaming that this was never what I signed up for, and that I have the right to opt out of life I never agreed to. So, AITA for telling my husband I won't help raise the baby he had with his friend? AITA for refusing to take my husband's daughter to our family vacation because I don't consider her my real child. Let me start by saying that I understand how bad the title sounds. I really do. I've debated whether or not to post this because I know people will jump down my throat, but I genuinely need perspective outside my family and friends who are completely split on this. I, 36F, have been married to my husband, 41M, Tom, for 4 years. He has a daughter, Lily, 14F, from a previous marriage. Her mom passed away when she was 8, and I met Tom a year and a half later. We dated for about 2 years before getting married. I don't have biological children of my own, though I've always wanted to be a mother. When I first met Lily, things were awkward but manageable. She was polite, quiet, and honestly very sweet, but I never really felt that mother-daughter bond with her. I was careful, kind, and supportive, but I always felt like I was walking on eggshells. It was clear that she saw me as her dad's wife and nothing more, which was fair. I never tried to force a maternal role on her. I thought in time we might grow closer. Fast forward to now, we get along decently. She stays with us half the time, and with Tom's in-laws, her maternal grandparents, the other half. They're very involved in her life and have always been openly cold to me, still considering me the replacement for their daughter. Again, I get it. I've tried to be respectful, and Tom's been very passive about defending me in that regard. This summer, my family planned a big vacation to Italy. It's my parents' 40th anniversary, and they wanted all of us to go, my siblings, their spouses, and their children. It's a 2-week trip, fully paid for by my parents, and it's been planned for over a year. My family is tight-knit, and everyone's excited. Here's where the problem started. My parents decided that they would only be covering the costs for biological grandchildren. They weren't being cruel. They just said they didn't know Lily well. She's only been to 2 family events by her own choice and was mostly glued to her phone, and didn't feel it was appropriate to foot the bill for someone they barely knew. I told Tom about this and said that if he wanted Lily to come, we need to pay her portion ourselves. He said fine, no big deal. But when it came time to finalize bookings and arrangements, he suddenly told me he couldn't afford to pay for Lily. Some big financial thing with his business happened. He's self-employed, and he said he needed to pull back on expenses. I suggested we split her costs. It would still be a stretch, but doable. He said he couldn't even do that right now. I was stuck. Either I go on the trip and Lily doesn't, or I cancel entirely. I told Tom I was still planning to go. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip with my family. I've been looking forward to it for ages. He asked if I consider using some of my savings to cover Lily entirely. I said I didn't think that was fair. He then said, "She's your daughter too," and I snapped. I told him that no, Lily is not my daughter. I love her, I care about her, but I'm not her mom. I've been respectful, supportive, and consistent, but she has made it very clear over the years that I am not, and will never be, a maternal figure to her. She calls me by my first name, never celebrates Mother's Day with me, and even in therapy, which we did for a while, she said she doesn't want me to take on that role. I've respected that boundary. I've never asked her to call me mom. So no, I don't think it's fair that I should be expected to spend thousands of dollars from my personal savings on her for a vacation she barely even wants to go on. She even told Tom, when he asked her if she wanted to come, that she'd rather stay with Grandma. Tom didn't speak to me for 2 days. When he did, he said I was cruel and selfish, and that it broke his heart to hear me say Lily wasn't my daughter. He said I exposed how I really felt, and that he's reevaluating everything. I told him I was just being honest. I've never claimed to be her mother, and she's never treated me as one. I've done everything I could to be a good stepmom within the bounds, she said. But I won't pretend we're something we're not just to make him feel better. Now Lily knows she's not going, and apparently she is upset, which is frustrating because she didn't want to go in the first place. She told her grandparents, who of course think I'm the wicked stepmother. My in-laws are furious. Tom's side of the family is calling me heartless, saying I've officially alienated Lily and that I've ruined any chance of a real relationship with her. But my family thinks I was completely justified. My parents were very firm that they shouldn't have to pay for someone who has no relationship with them. My sister pointed out that if the roles were reversed, if Tom had a stepson who never bonded with him and didn't want a father figure, No one would expect him to drop thousands from his own pocket. Tom and I are now in a really weird place. We've barely spoken in the last few days. He says he doesn't know how to look at me the same way. I feel awful, not because I think I did something wrong, but because of the fallout. I don't want to hurt Lily. I care about her. But I also don't think it's wrong to acknowledge that we aren't close, and that I shouldn't be expected to bankroll her as if we are. So Reddit, AITA? AITA for refusing to help my sister after she helped me for years? My 32F sister Megan, 36F, and I were close growing up, but our adult lives took very different paths. I pursued a career in tech, moved across the country, and focused on building my career. Megan stayed in her hometown, got married young, had 3 kids, and worked part-time jobs here and there. We didn't drift apart, but we weren't in each other's daily lives either. About 7 years ago, things went sideways for me. I had a massive burnout, lost my job, and struggled with depression. I didn't tell many people, but Megan found out. Without asking questions or making me feel like a failure, she offered for me to come back home and stay with her and her family until I got back on my feet. I said no at first, pride and all, but she insisted. So I moved in with her, her husband, and her kids. It wasn't easy. I was a shell of myself, and not the most pleasant person to be around. But Megan made space for me. She fed me, supported me emotionally, even drove me to therapy sessions for a while. I lived with her for almost a year and a half. I eventually got a remote job, found my own place, and rebuilt. I've done really well since then, promotions, savings, a new place in a different city, and my mental health is finally stable. I've always thanked Megan and told her I owe her everything. I've sent her and her kids gifts, helped with money sometimes, covered a couple of small emergencies. She always waved it off, saying that's what sisters are for. Now, to the present. About 6 months ago, Megan's husband left her, just packed a bag and walked out. No affair that we know of, no big fight. He just said he wasn't happy and left. She was devastated. Since then, things have spiraled for her financially. He paid minimal child support, and she couldn't keep up with everything. She works, but it's not enough. A few weeks ago, she called me crying, saying she might lose the house. She asked if she and the kids could move in with me, just for a while, until she figured things out. She said she could get work in my city, enroll the kids in school, and restart there. I hesitated. She noticed and asked if I was okay with it, and I told her I'd think about it. Here's the thing. I live alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment. It's peaceful, quiet. My job is demanding, and I need a stable environment to function. The thought of 3 kids, a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old, in my home 24/7 gives me instant anxiety. I remember how chaotic their house was. It was fine when I was in a dark place and needed anything, but now I'm finally okay, and I'm scared to risk that. I told her that I love her and want to help, but I can't let her move in. I offered to send her money every month for a while, or help her find a rental nearby, or even help her pay a lawyer to fight for better child support. She got quiet and said she understood, then got off the phone quickly. Later that day, I got a text from her saying she didn't want my pity money and that she couldn't believe I'd say no after everything she did for me. She said I was treating her and her kids like a burden and that she hoped I'd never be in a situation where I needed someone like she needs me now. I didn't reply right away, and the next day, her oldest daughter, who I'm very close with, messaged me saying she doesn't understand why I won't let them come live with me and that mom cries every night. My parents got involved and told me I was being selfish. That family is supposed to be there for each other, and that Megan opened her doors when I had nothing. They said they can't take her in. They live in a retirement community, and I'm her only real option. I feel like an awful person. I know what she did for me, and part of me feels like I'm turning my back on her. But another part of me, the part that remembers how long it took me to get stable, is terrified that letting them move in will undo all the progress I've made. Am I really just being selfish? Is this about choosing my comfort over my sister and her kids' actual needs? I tried explaining that it's not about not wanting to help. I just can't be the full-on solution. But to them, it sounds like excuses. Now Megan isn't returning my messages, and her daughter told me they're staying with a friend but might need to go to a shelter soon. That crushed me. But still, when I imagine them here, noise, mess, stress, I panic. I'm not a kid person. I love them, but I don't know how to live with them. I worked so hard to create a space where I could finally breathe. Am I supposed to give that up, even temporarily, because of what she once did for me? The guilt is eating me alive, but I also feel like if I say yes, it's going to break me again. So, AITA for saying no when she said yes to me. AITA for kicking my brother and his fiancée out of my wedding after what they did at the rehearsal dinner. So, I'm 28F, getting married to my fiancée, 31M, this October. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 1, and decided to do a small but elegant wedding in the mountains with close family and friends. Nothing too extravagant, but tasteful, intimate, and very us. My fiancée and I have been very hands-on with the planning, and I've honestly put my heart into every detail. I have one sibling, my older brother, Jake, 32M. Growing up, we were close. But over the last few years, we've drifted. Jake got really into social media and content creation. First YouTube, then Instagram, now TikTok. His whole life is about creating relatable content with his fiancée, Lila, 29F. Think vlogs, pranks, reaction videos, couple challenges, that kind of thing. They have a joint account with about 800K followers, so they're not unknown. It's their full-time job now. We've had a few hiccups over the past year with them trying to use family events as content. Like my graduation dinner where they did a most embarrassing moments video, or our mom's birthday where they did a prank and made her cry by pretending the cake was ruined. It wasn't, but she was so upset before they told her it was a joke. So when we started planning the wedding, I had one major rule for them. No filming, no vlogging, no content creation of my wedding events. I told them nicely but firmly that this was a private moment, and I wanted everyone to be present, not online. Jake rolled his eyes and said I was being dramatic, that people would love to see behind the scenes of a wedding, and that it would be good exposure for the vendors too. I said I don't care. This was not about exposure. This was about my wedding. He said okay, they would respect that. Cut to the rehearsal dinner 2 nights ago. It was a small backyard dinner at the rental cabin, just the wedding party and immediate family. Super low-key. I noticed Jake and Lila had a little tripod set up on the table behind them, pointing at them. I asked about it, and Lila said it was just taking aesthetic B-roll and wasn't recording audio. I was annoyed, but figured as long as they weren't talking to the camera or filming people, I could live with it. Then, halfway through dinner, I hear Jake say loudly, "Okay guys, so we have a surprise for the bride and groom," and I immediately got a bad feeling. I turned to see him holding a small box and Lila holding her phone, clearly recording. I told them to put the phone down. Jake said, "It's just a gift. Relax." I said, "Not while recording." Seriously. He ignored me and handed the box to my fiancée, grinning. My fiancée hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a baby onesie that said, "Future Content Creator, coming May 2026. Everyone went silent. Jake shouted, "We're having a baby!" And Lila turned the phone to capture everyone's reaction. My mom gasped, some people clapped awkwardly, and I just stared at them. I stood up and said, "What the hell are you doing?" Lila goes, "We thought it would be a sweet way to share the news." I said, "Am I rehearsal dinner? After I told you not to film anything? Are you serious?" Jake rolled his eyes and said I was overreacting. "It's not like we did it during your vows. It's just a dinner." I snapped. I told them they completely disrespected me, that they clearly cared more about their content than my boundaries, and that they were no longer welcome at the wedding. Jake got mad and said I was being a bridezilla, that family should come before some stupid video ban. I told them to leave. They left in a huff, and now my parents are begging me to reconsider because it's not fair to punish the baby and that Jake and Lila are heartbroken. My mom even tried to say that it was a beautiful announcement and I should feel honored they wanted to share it with us. But I don't feel honored. I feel used. They turned one of the most personal moments of my life into a backdrop for their news and content. And the worst part? I found out the next morning that the video was already uploaded. They edited it overnight and titled it, "We surprised our family with pregnancy news." At a wedding, it already has over 200,000 views. My fiancé is totally on my side, but some extended family is saying I'm being too harsh and should just let it go. So Reddit, AITA for kicking them out of my wedding? AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because of the no kids, no exceptions rule that she broke for her fiance's niece. My 34F sister Lauren, 31F, is getting married in December. We were close growing up and even into our 20s, but we've grown apart over the years. Nothing dramatic, just life. She moved to another state, started a new job, met her fiancé Brandon, and started planning a wedding that has slowly driven our family apart. So here's the situation. I have 2 kids, 5 and 7. I'm not one of those parents who tries to bring my kids to every event. I get that some weddings are child-free, and I respect that. But I also think that if someone is family, and especially if they're traveling a long distance, exceptions can be made or accommodations can be worked out. When Lauren first announced the wedding, she sent out an email to the family laying down some early info, date, location, save the dates coming soon, and a very clear line that it would be an adults-only ceremony and reception. No kids, no exceptions. I wasn't thrilled, but I understood. I asked her directly if she meant it, that there really wouldn't be any kids, and she said yes. Even her fiancé's niece, 12, and nephew, 9, wouldn't be there. Fair enough. We started looking into childcare in the area, since we live across the country and don't know anyone there. My husband and I budgeted extra for a hotel babysitter service that had decent reviews. Expensive, but we figured it was worth it for one night so we could celebrate with my sister. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. My mom calls me and casually mentions how excited Lauren is to have Brandon's niece as the flower girl. I paused and said, wait, what? Yep. Apparently Brandon's niece will not only attend the wedding, but she's going to be in it. I called Lauren to ask what changed, and she said they made an exception for her because she's really important to Brandon, and she's been dreaming of being a flower girl. I asked if Brandon's nephew was coming too, and she said yes, but they'll be leaving right after the ceremony. Sure, January. I said, so the no kids rule just doesn't apply to them. She told me not to be dramatic and that this was about family harmony. I said I am family too, and my kids are her actual blood-related niece and nephew. Why does her fiancé's niece get an exception but not mine? She got defensive and said it's her wedding and she can do what she wants, and that making one exception doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. I told her I felt disrespected and that I didn't appreciate being lied to. She said it wasn't lying, it was just a change of plans, and she didn't owe anyone an explanation. I said okay, but then I don't owe it to her to spend thousands of dollars, fly across the country, and leave my kids with strangers so I can attend a wedding where my children aren't welcome, but her fiancé's niece is walking down the aisle with a basket of roses. She told me if I didn't come, she'd consider it a statement of where we stand as sisters. I told her if that's the case, maybe we're not standing on very stable ground. Now, my parents are pressuring me to reconsider. They're telling me Lauren is just stressed and trying to keep Brandon's family happy. My mom in particular said it's just one kid and that I shouldn't throw away my relationship with my sister over this. I told them this isn't just about the wedding. It's about feeling like I'm constantly expected to bend, be the understanding one, and put family first, but that never goes both ways. My husband is completely supportive of not going. He was pissed too. He said if it were his sister pulling this, he'd have canceled immediately. To be honest, I don't even know anymore. Am I being too rigid? It's just one day, but it feels like a line has been crossed. I'm sad, angry, and tired of being told I'm the one, making it difficult when I've done everything to accommodate her request until now. So, AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because she made an exception to her no kids rule, but only for her fiancé's family? AITA for kicking my sister out of my wedding because of a joke she made years ago? I, 28F, got married 3 weeks ago to my now husband, Daniel, 30M. We had a beautiful wedding planned in the mountains, relatively small, around 75 guests, and it was everything I had hoped it would be, almost. Let me give you some context. I have an older sister, Claire, 31F, who I've had a complicated relationship with most of my life. Growing up, Claire was the golden child. Straight A's, captain of every team, got into an Ivy League school. I was more average, artsy, quiet, decent grades, but I never stood out the way she did. Our parents constantly compared us, whether they realized it or not. Claire never let me forget it, either. Her teasing wasn't exactly mean girl level, but it always stung. She'd say things like, well, not all of us could be the gifted child. Or when I got into my state college, she made a toast at dinner that began with, to my sister, proving you don't need to be exceptional to be successful. She laughed, and my parents laughed. I smiled. I always smile, but I never forgot. The most significant example, and the one that still haunts me, happened 5 years ago. I had just gotten out of a rough breakup, and I was struggling mentally. It was a low point. I was crying one night at a family dinner because my ex had gotten engaged, and I felt like I was being left behind. Claire patted me on the shoulder and said, in front of everyone, don't worry, some people peak later in life. Or not at all. But hey, you're still young. I didn't speak to her for 2 months after that. She apologized over text, something half-assed like, sorry if I hurt your feelings, I was just trying to lighten the mood. That was it. Anyway, fast forward to last year when I got engaged to Daniel. He's everything I ever wanted, kind, calm, thoughtful, and he sees me in a way I've never been seen before. He also knows about Claire, and while he's never interfered, he's made it clear that he sees how much her behavior has affected me. When I was planning the wedding, I debated having Claire as a bridesmaid. Out of obligation and pressure from my mom, I agreed. I figured we were adults now, and it had been years since that joke. 2 nights before the wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner at a local winery. It was a beautiful night, until Claire got up to give a toast. She started off okay, talking about how we used to play dress-up and how I used to practice wedding vows with Barbie dolls. Then she said this, but honestly, when she told me she was getting married, I thought she was joking. I mean, you guys know Liv, our little free spirit. Commitment wasn't really her thing, right? I always thought she'd end up in a yurt in Oregon with 6 dogs. But look at her now. You proved us all wrong. Some people laughed. Some looked uncomfortable. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. I wanted to disappear. After the dinner, I confronted her privately. I told her I didn't appreciate the toast, and that I had asked her repeatedly not to make those kinds of jokes. She rolled her eyes and said, oh my God, Liv, it was funny. People laughed. It was a compliment that you proved everyone wrong. Lighten up. That was it for me. I told her she was out of the wedding. Nobody this maidres. No front row seat. She could still come as a guest, but I didn't want her near me in the bridal suite, in the pictures, or standing beside me. Claire was furious. My mom lost it and called me dramatic. My dad stayed out of it. Claire left that night and didn't show up to the wedding. I didn't reach out. Since then, the fallout has been intense. My mom says I ruined our family dynamic. My aunt told me I'll regret it when we're older and not speaking. Even Daniel's mom said that maybe I overreacted. I don't know anymore. The wedding was beautiful, and it was honestly such a relief not to have her there on the day of. I felt like I could breathe. But now, weeks later, I'm starting to second-guess myself. My argument is, this wasn't about one joke. This was about years of digs and humiliation masked as humor. I gave her a chance, several, actually. I told her how I felt, and she dismissed it. Repeatedly. Was I supposed to just let her have the spotlight on a day that was supposed to be about me and Daniel? Claire hasn't reached out since. I haven't either. So, Reddit, AITA for kicking my sister out of my wedding over toast? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.